Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I will be doing the St Kilda Saints team preview for 2024. It's probably going to be a shorter one comparatively to the 27-minute one for the Sydney Swans, as the Sydney Swans I have more detail about, and the Saints I don't know much about necessarily the rookies at the moment like I do across the whole clubs and how they will sort of fit in at the moment. Except for sort of the top rookies and sort of the St Kilda. I don't really see there being too much value early on. A lot of their guys are tip-top value at the moment, except for a couple. And so they're more guys that I think you would want to bring in later on in the season when they don't get too heavily affected by a drop in a low game basically, and they're more so affected. They're more so just you're picking them up for their potential run, as I think the St Kilda Saints have a nice couple of runs and stuff like that. Let's just see. They do have a pretty good, not really, but sort of round 19 onwards. They have these West Coast Eagles, then they have Essendon, then they have a tough game. Well, they do have Brisbane at Marvel, that could be still a good game, and then they've got Richmond, Geelong and Carlton. And they've got 4 games straight or something like that. 5 games straight at Marvel. I don't know about the truth about that. Let me just see if they have all the home team or something. No, they have 5 straight games at Marvel. That is really, really weird. So I would actually be looking at that and thinking, yeah, that is a run to go on. Round 19 to round 24, they've got 6 straight games at Marvel, so you could actually look at that for buying them in for that last sort of stretch, especially guys like Sinclair and stuff like that. Still, you may already have Nassine, Wanganeen, Malira and stuff like that, so you could look at those guys for that sort of stretch. I don't know if you would necessarily look at Marshall for that stretch, but we'd have to look at the ruck situation to see if you want to swap them around for that situation. But anyway, before we get into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into the video. So as you can see here on my screen, it is bugging out. Of course it does. Why would it not bug out? So let's quickly just do window capture and then do display capture, please. That is my notes as you saw them for a split second. Editing on the fly, and here is what I was looking at with the with that run here, 19 to round 24. You can see it is very fruitful with 6 straight Marvel games against probably 2 top 8 sides and the rest, and 3 sort of 10 to 15 ranked sides and then a bottom ranked side. So yeah, I think that is very, very potentially profitable. So Rowan Marshall here, and I haven't actually set it up completely. Second best ruck in the comp. And it is sort of, you could almost use him rather than English, just because he's got around 30k spare or 25k spare on English, as he has 3 less average, so that's around 27k or so. So 20 to 30k or whatever on English, whatever it is. But yeah, so there is sort of that option if you were to pay up for a set and forget ruck, as well as sort of that Grundy value option. But I think a lot of people will go for a round 0 sort of playable guy in Grundy or Gawn alongside Sherry, maybe sacking that sort of M5, maybe trying to get that 5th midfield premium already. They could do that. But we'll see how it is. I may just decide to go a little bit safer and go for a round 0 sort of round 0 buy guy in Grundy or Gawn, as well as a sort of English guy or an English or a Marshall. It was a long Christmas, New Year's. So this is done on the 1st, recorded on the 1st, out on the 4th or something like that. So there's that for you guys. But I think you could actually go for Marshall if you wanted to. I think he's probably almost a better option than English. But we'll see with that. Let's just look at his run to start. That's a good run. Round 0, he has the bye. Then he has Geelong into Collingwood into Essendon, Richmond. Round 4, 5, 6 could be interesting. But then you've got, I really do like the run here of Eagles, then Essendon, then Brisbane, even Richmond at that point, Geelong, and then Carlton. I think he will dominate all those games. So if you want to bring him in for the back half, I would do that. but it'd be a big call to trade out your rucks when you're trying to probably almost at that stage still get that last sort of upgrading point. But there's that. So that is Rowan Marshall basically covered, and he's shown that he's a top 3 scorer, and he did have that big jump, and he did have that 2019, and that 2020 is still going to be like a 90 or something like that with the 1.25 multiplier, which shows that he's been able to score at 90 plus. But obviously you don't want a 116 guy that you priced at 116 to go 90s. So I would just stay clear of him just at the start, just to see if he if you can stay clear of him, stay clear of him, because he could drop down just a little bit, but we'll see with him as he is in his prime at the moment and doesn't have Tom Campbell to worry about. Next up is Brad Crouch. We bring up his stats here, and I just don't like the look of him. He is now 29, he will be 30 by the time that they play first game of the year, January 94, so he will be 30. And he really hasn't been that guy ever to jump above 108 is his highest, so that would be 3 points of upside. I just think that there are midfielders now with around that price of Brad Crouch. What is he priced at? Brad Crouch is priced at 932k. There's like Sarong 40k higher who could legitimately go 118, 119. There's even Andy Brayshaw, which I think is around his price as well. There's guys like LDU, which are 60k cheaper, who could go 115, 116. There's guys there that could easily go his price, his average of 103 is that, 103 average. There are guys that can go 105, 106, 107 that are 80k cheaper. So that's why I'm just saying hold off on Brad Crouch, as he's sort of shown us his hand, and I don't think he'll really improve. And I think that you don't want to stack up too many guys on the side, and we did have that problem last year with Windhager, Crouch, Sinclair, and Steele at the same point. I think I had 4, and I had Marshall as well, 5. I think I had 5 St. Kilda guys, and it did profit. I was getting 450, 500 points per round, but I wasn't getting that killer blow of that, like, using those premiums to all get 110, 120 plus. So it wasn't the killer blow. It was sort of just a meddling out of each game, as they were always taking points off each other. So I think Brad Crouch is the one you want to miss, as you've got Steele, who could return to a 120. You've got Wanganeen Malira, who could go 105. You've got Sinclair, who could go 110 as a half-back row. You've got Rowan Marshall, who's a potential 115 we just discussed, if he holds his form in his prime. So you got all those guys there, and I just think Brad Crouch is probably the guy that you just want to give a miss, just in case. And you don't want to have too many guys from the same round, especially when, if you look at just Steele here quickly, they've got the round 15 buy, which is going to be a popular buy from what I've seen. So you got that. Then you got Jack Sinclair, the next guy up. If I quickly just scroll down my notes, Sinclair has one of the best roles in the game. We saw how Jordan Dawson ran it last year. I think Jordan Dawson mostly ran a more midfield split, around a 20% more midfield split than the likes of Sinclair. I can actually search that up for you. Let's go there, and then we go CBAs, and you'll see the Adelaide split in 2023. We saw Dawson at 70, and then if we go to St Kilda, you'll probably see Jack Sinclair around 38, 39. Jack Sinclair 28%, but he did have those games where he did go nuts. Let's look at the round 25 game? Let's just look at that's still Sinclair. 24 is the last round that they have, and 24 he had 5%. Let's look at the game again in round 15 and see how he did. Round 15 he put up a 130, so he does do really well when he goes into the midfield. Round 23, did he have midfield time? No, he didn't. So he does produce whether he's in the midfield or not. Let's look at round 17 and 18 just to make sure of this. Round 17 and 18, 120, 110 and an 86. His lowest of the year was a 72, which just shows if he's got a low floor and still a highish ceiling at 130 and a 136, a 121, etc. He still have a high ceiling, a 119 as well, I see there, and a 141 I missed completely. So 141, let's check the round 10, just to make sure. Around 10, Jack Sinclair had a 21, and around 11 he had a 61% midfield time. Around 11 he actually didn't do anything, so around 10, so he's actually better off that halfback flank, which is quite funny. But you'll see hopefully Steele come back, as well as Crouch in the midfield, as well as let's just check the CBAs just to check. So we have Steele, Crouch, Ross. Is he still there? Is Ross still there? Let's just check. Where's Ross? He's still there. He just doesn't score that well. So you still have Ross there. Zach Jones will probably be back, I'm guessing. Hunter Clark, I reckon, will be back in the midfield mix as well. So I reckon they won't need Sinclair as much. And yes, Gresham's minutes will go to someone. His CBAs will go to someone. But I think you could see a likes of Philip who went 38, 42, 45% in the last couple games of the year. And I might want to just actually duplicate that and just search up Mateus Philippou here and look up his stats quickly, as I just want to look and see if that had any correlation to him scoring well. What was it, 22, 23, 24 rounds, 22, 23, 24 was when he did have that midfield time. He went 73, 26 and 48, so that 26 is an interesting one to look at for Philippou. And let's actually look at it quickly. Where is Philippou here? I just want to do this quickly just to see what it was for him. Let's just look up Philippou here, and then the round 2023 match stats here. Did he get injured in it? He played low time on ground for a 64 for 26, so that's an interesting one to look at and see why that happened. But I think Philippou is one that could definitely improve. But back to Sinclair. I think Sinclair is definitely one that you could start at that D1 if Nick Dacos has that really bad round 0, like puts up a 60 or a 50 or something like that, and is losing value. Because if Nick Dacos is losing value alongside the round 4, round 5 bye, alongside the fact that he's going to get a Finn McGuinness tag, and yes, we do this every year, but if he does have a bottom out score, gets behind on the break even, and he could potentially lose 100k, 80k cash very, very quickly. So I reckon it all depends on who you start there. Will depend on if Nick Dacos has a good round. Because if Nick Dacos has a bad round, I may go and start get off the Jerry train and start a guy like if Sheldrick works out as well, start a guy like Sheldrick alongside some other guys, and basically have a set and forget ruck alongside Grundy, alongside a like Sheldrick or something like that who's going to gain cash quickly, and get rid of Nick Dacos and basically swap the liability there. As if I look quickly, I just want to check, when does Nick Dacos have that? Even though we're talking about St Kilda, Nick Dacos almost becomes relevant. And when is that bye? That bye is the same round as the Swans. So I basically have 3 guys on that bye that round. So it'll be interesting to see how Jack Sinclair and Nick Dacos almost play off each other, and see how Nick Dacos' round 0 could impact the ownership of Jack Sinclair. Let's just put it like that, as Jack Sinclair has a 24% ownership. If Nick Dacos has a horrific round 0, that ownership is probably going to go up to 35%. Let's just put it that way. You could also look at Sicily potentially as that in that same spot. But let's just move on from Sinclair and move on to Jack Steele, who is one of the interesting ones to just talk about. Jack Steele, he is actually currently in my side. And that's because injuries have forced him to have such a horrific run. We saw a 90.9 with, I think Grundy was a 113. So if you look at it right now, and you look at all his scores, you have to go back to 2019 since he had a worse year than 2023. 2020, he had a 113, a 121, and a 110. So there is a potential of 13, 14, 15 points of upside there. And I think I'm willing to take a risk with Steele over the likes of some other guys, just because if he has a clean bill of health, he should be able to return really well. He had the collarbone injury followed by, was it an ankle injury that he's had surgery on or something like that? If I look quickly here, he's been a 120 guy before. If you look at previous years, we talked about that. So he's effectively gone 113.6, 121.4, and a 110.4. With a healthy preseason, as he had ankle surgery in September of 2023, I believe, which he had an injury that for the back half of 2023. You can almost look at these type of scores here, this 59, 91, 115, and a 67. If you take those scores out of it, and I know you really shouldn't do that, times 97.8, minus 59, minus 91, minus 115, minus 67, divide that by 16. If you take those 4 scores out of it, and even taking a 91 and a 115 out of it, you get him at, I believe, a 102 was that? Or 101.5, and he had this horrific run here. I believe this was an injury-affected game as well. and and this as well. So you had this run as well here where he was probably battling with something, but you can see this output here. This run of form here, where he probably averaged 120, is what he can do. So he's shown flashes of it. He has a high ceiling. It's just these floor games of 59, 67, and 60. If he can bring those games up to 80, he's got 4 or 5 games of those. If he brings them up, then that's 80 to 100 points. And that is roughly 4 to 5 points of upside in itself, as well as just improving. And 4 to 5 points of upside, he could potentially go to a 105 guy. And I think that's around good enough for almost a premium, etc., as that is sort of an M5, M6 level finisher in itself. Which is something that I'm looking at for him. And so I do think he does have, if you go back to his previous seasons, as I said, 10 to 15 points of upside, but anything over about 8 or 9 points of upside is really, really good for Steele at this point. And I think he's just one that could easily, he has the potential to explode to a 120, but if he just has a better season in itself and is injury-free, he has a 105, 110 for the taking there easily. So I think that there is almost 2 bounds to it. And I think with taking the more safer route and him just averaging a 105 to 110, I think that's still good enough for me. So I'm willing to take the risk on him injury-wise just because he has so much upside. But there is a potential for him just to, in the next 2 months, that'll change, especially with round 0 and how those other guys go. And how many round 0 guys we have with that early buy, how many we take through given that double price rise, but we'll see with him with that. Next up is Nasaya Wangadeen Malira. I probably butchered his first name, but anyway, Wangadeen Malira, I think, is a guy that you could look at. Look at his natural progression, 59 to a 91.3. I like the value option with him at 820k. There's guys like him and Hayden Young that are guys that you can look at as you have and fill out M2, M3 with them. You got guys like Coleman that are 620k, but he's got that early buy, which is annoying because he's going to jump quickly, Coleman, to 800k, and you don't really want to spend that. But you've also got Wangadeen Malira here, NWM, who averaged 91.3, and if you look at the back half of the year, if you take out that 70, 79, 79 in the first 3, and he's also got 9 sub 80 games in there. If he can bring that up, he can probably get another 5, 6, 7 points of upside just through that easily. So he is a potential 105, 100 to 105 type of guy. If we get that natural progression and we see him using his foot skills, if we look and we go back on this one a little bit and we go to his view advanced stats, 76% disposal efficiency, I think he's one of the better ones by foot. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes with that. And I'm actually just going to do the maths quickly here. 101 minus 70 minus 158. And then I quickly look at how many games he played. He played all 23. Divide that by 20. And you get a 93.65 just by taking out that first 3 games. As well as he has a 66, a 55, and then a 73, a 74, etc. And a 75 there. And an 81 there. So you see all these sort of bottom out games, but then you see the 130, the 125, 125 again. So you can see those tough, those big scores. And if he does become that uncontested mark guy in a Ross system where they slow it down, then we could really see him balloon out to a 105 type guy. But even 100 guy in defense is a huge pull to have, as those guys are really going to be worthwhile, given that the defense looks a little bit shaky this year with Doherty out of the defense, and we lost a couple guys. So you need to be looking at guys like Jade Short and also Nassim Wangadeen Malira. So then we move on to one of the last guys that we're going to talk about. Last guy that I've actually got notes on is Windhager. Some teams score well in particular areas. We talked about it with the Swans with their sort of inside mid balls, which a lot of teams have that, but in particular the Swans have that with Mills, Rowbottom, Parker, Chad Warner as well. Taylor Adams is going to go in there, and some other guys that I'm probably missing out as well. So you have so many guys in there taking up all the points basically. Their midfield takes up a predominant amount of their points obviously, and then you have Gordon on the wing as well taking up a lot of points. For some reason the St Kilda Saints have a lot of distributing halfbacks that take off points, that take points there. And if we actually look at Windhager, what's his position? Let's look at Windhager. He's got defender midfield, which is a good one. I wish he still had that forward status. If he had that forward status, he would definitely be in the side if he had forward status at 63 average. He's priced at, let's just look here, he's priced at 570k. If he had forward status, playing that sweeper defensive role, then you'd look at it and you'd be like, yes, there definitely is value there. He's only priced at 63. But he averaged 73 when he moved back into that distributing defender role, and he definitely got better with it when the season went on. He went 110, 114, 70, 64, 65, 95, 80. So if you look at that run there, I'm going to say that that's probably about an 80 average across it, which is plus 17. So he's there or thereabouts. You can see it, but you need that 85 sort of range, I reckon, for him to really be of value. Which, could he hit that? Yes, he could. If he was a forward, you'd definitely be going for it, but he's a defender. So there is other guys like Chapman who are 80k cheaper, who I reckon are going to hit that 80k, sort of that 80 average, and be that 25 plus 25 that you want. Whereas I think that Windhager here will be a plus 20, plus 15 type of on his average, which is just on the range of, do you really want it, do you really not? So it'll be interesting his positioning, but if he is off that halfback flank, he could be very, very, very valuable with them just having that junk time with Wangadeen, Malira, Sinclair, Windhager, Hill, and all those guys there scoring easily scoring really good points. But just think about it in the defence. You've also got Williams, you've got Chapman, you've got Kitty Coleman. Himmelberg's got a little bit of value there, but I don't think he's got too much value. So you've got guys there that are 130k cheaper on him that should do roughly the same, which is just way, way too much value to ignore with Williams. So that's why you got to look at Williams. The only upside with Windhager is that he doesn't have that early buy, but then you also think about it mid-prices. You want that early price gain. So Williams could actually be interesting. If he gets up very, very quickly, you could, if he had that round 5 buy Williams, you could almost get him up to a premium at that point. But he's got round 2, I believe. So he'll have that really quick price rise, to be honest with you, and it will be interesting to see. But anyway, that pretty much sums up the St Kilda. I did go a little bit off track with St Kilda, and I did actually stretch it out to 22 minutes at the moment for it. So it'll be interesting to see your thoughts about St Kilda and who you have currently in the side. I think I have... Who do I have currently from St Kilda? I got Jack Steele, and that is actually it. I had flirted with Wangadeen and Malira when I didn't have Nick Dacos in the side, as I think that's the preview one, the team reveal one that I had, Wangadeen and Malira. I've also flirted with Sinclair, and Windhager I think has been in my side a little bit. And then you've also got Darcy Wilson's been flicking out of my side, as I want to hold value on the bench so that I don't get in love with an extra premium or extra mid-pricer, when in reality you need that value on the bench for the rookies that are going to play round 1. But anyway, that is the video, and I will see you guys in the next team preview for 2024. Bye guys.